I bit into my lip to force myself to stop crying and went to bed without saying another word. The hallway outside the principal's office was very quiet. It was noon, and nearly everyone was home for lunch. The big red characters, principal's office, made me nervous. I put my hand on the knob, hesitated, and lowered it. I walked back to the stairs, trembling and covered with sweat. I rehearsed the words I was going to say one more time. Then I rushed back to the office door and pushed it open. Principal Long was reading a newspaper. She raised her head and peered through her glasses to see who had interrupted her. Principal Long, here's a note from my father. Hastily, I gave her the note, damp with sweat from my palm. I hurried out of the office before she could look at it or ask me any questions. I ran down the hallway, colliding with someone and running blindly on, thinking only that she must be very disappointed. At 1 o'clock, when the bell finally rang to start class, I heaved a long sigh and walked out of the library. My best friend Ann Yee and our homeroom teacher were standing outside the main building. As soon as they saw me, Ann Yee shouted, "Where have you been? Aren't you supposed to go to the audition at 1? Hurry up, you're going to be late." I opened my mouth but couldn't say a word. "Why, what's wrong?" Teacher Gu asked. I'm not going." I bowed my head and twisted my fingers in my red scarf. "What? Are you crazy? This is the chance of a lifetime." I did not raise my head. I did not want to see Annie's face. "Really? Why not?" Teacher Gu sounded concerned. I tried hard not to cry. Father wouldn't let me. Annie was about to say something else, but Teacher Gu cut her off. "All right, this is her family's decision. We won't talk about it any further." She put her hand on my shoulder and gave me a little squeeze. Then she went away with Annie without saying another word. Across the yard, I saw Principal Long, Wang Chi, and the two other boys coming out of the gym. I dodged behind a tree and heard them chatting and laughing as they went by. They were going to the audition. I could have been going with them. My eyes blurred with tears. I thought of the way the teacher Gu looked at me. There had been a mixture of disappointment, doubt, and inquiry in her eyes. I was sure that Principal Long must have looked the same way after she had read Dad's note. So must Wang Chi, Yu Xiaofan, and all my classmates. I didn't want to think any longer. I just wished that I could find a place to hide so I wouldn't have to see their faces. Until that spring, I believed that my life and my family were nearly perfect. My father was a stage actor, 6 feet tall and slightly stoop-shouldered. Because of his height and his serious face, he usually played the villain at the children's theater where he worked. He was a vicious landlord, the foolish king. But at home, he was our humorous, kind, and wise dad. He loved reading, and he loved including the whole family in his discoveries. He demonstrated the exercises of the great acting teacher Stanislavski. He imitated Charlie Chaplin's funny walk. And when he was reading about calculus, he explained Zeno's paradox in the infinite series. We thought Dad knew everything. Mom had been an actress when she met Dad, and she was still as pretty as an actress. When she was little, she stopped acting and worked in a sports equipment store. Every evening, we eagerly awaited for her to come home from work. We rushed out to greet her and opened her handbag, where there was sure to be a treat for us. "Mom spoiled us," Grandma said. Grandma was truly amazing. When she had graduated from a modern-style high school in 1914, the time when very few girls went to school at all. After liberation, she had helped found Sheen Air Primary School, my school, and become its vice principal. She retired from teaching when I was born so that she could take care of me while Mom worked. But whenever we met her old students, now adults, they still bowed to her respectfully and called her Teacher Cao, which made me so proud. Ji Yong was 11, 1 year younger than me, and Ji Yun was 1 year younger than Ji Yong. Once Mom told me that she had her 3 children in 3 years because she wanted to finish her duty of having babies sooner so she could devote herself wholeheartedly to the revolution. While I was tall and thin like Dad, Ji Yong and Ji Yun were shorter and plumper like Mom. Ji Yong was nicknamed Iron Ball because he was dark-skinned and sturdy. He liked to play in the alley and paid little attention to his studies. Ji Yun had 2 dimples, which gave her an especially sweet smile. She was easygoing and did not always strive to be the best, as I did. But I had learned that she could be very stubborn. And then there was Song Popo. She had originally been our nanny. When we grew up, she stayed and became our housekeeper. As long as I could remember, she had been living in the small room downstairs. She had raised the 3 of us, and we all felt she was like another grandmother. She was as dear to us as we were to her. We lived in a big building in one of Shanghai's nicer neighborhoods. My 4th aunt, who had been married to Dad's half-brother, lived downstairs with her daughter, my cousin Yu Mei, and Yu Mei's daughter, a lovely baby called Hua Hua. My uncle had died in Hong Kong a few years before. Yumei's husband had a job in another city and was allowed to visit Shanghai only twice a year. Sang Popo told us our extended family used to occupy 2 whole buildings, 10 rooms altogether. Then they all moved away, and only your family and your fourth aunt's family were left. Your family only has 1 room now. It's just too bad, she shook her head sadly. But I didn't feel that way at all. I loved our top floor room. A huge French window and high ceiling made it bright all year round, warmer during the winter and cooler in the summer. The kitchen on the landing outside the room was small, but I didn't mind. Our room was 10 times as big as many of my classmates' homes and 100 times brighter. Best of all, we had a private bathroom, a full-size room with a sink, toilet, and a tub. It was almost as large as some families' entire homes. Many did not have a bathroom at all, or even a flush toilet, and very few had a full-size bathroom that they did not have to share with other families. My family was also special in another way. Sometimes on Saturday evening, some of my dad's colleagues would visit. They called these gatherings Jiang Salon. I did not know what salon meant, but I loved them. They were wonderful parties. Mom would make her famous beef soup, and Grandma would make her steamed buns. We children would help Song Po Po polish the mahogany table and Grandma's 4 prized red and gold dowry chunks until we could see our reflections in the wood and leather. When the guests arrived, we would greet them as uncle and aunt as a sign of respect and bring tea to each of them. Most of them were actors from Dad's theater, and they were all talented. There was Uncle Ju, a young actor who had excellent handwriting. Every time he came, he would take some time to help me with my calligraphy. There was Uncle Tian and Aunt Wu, so young and handsome and well-dressed that the neighbors noticed every time they rolled up to their building on new bicycles and called them the beautiful couple. There was Uncle Fan, who had been Dad's friend since college. When he arrived, the discussions immediately became more interesting. His enthusiasm about whatever movie or play he had seen recently was contagious. Then there was Uncle Bao, a playwright who smoked cigars and let me sit on his lap. Although he spoke less than the others, his comments were always worth waiting for. Conversation flowed, so fascinating that we did not want to go to bed, no matter how late they stayed. Unlike the audition, I felt like the luckiest girl in the world. Anne Yi said that I seemed to have changed into a different person. Between classes, I would avoid my classmates. After school, I would stay in the library until it closed, just to elude the family's over-concerned looks. One time, our cat, Little White, cut her leg deeply on a piece of glass. We all rushed to find bandages to bind up the wound, but Little White ran into the attic and hid there for days, licking her wounds by herself. Just like Little White, I wanted to be left alone. None of the other 3 students passed the audition, but this did not make me feel better. It had not just been an audition for me. I was afraid that the rest of my life would not be what I had imagined. I had had many beautiful dreams. I dreamed of being a doctor in a white coat with a stethoscope dangling from my neck, saving lives one after another. I dreamed of being an architect, designing the most beautiful bridges in the world. I dreamed of being an actress, holding bunches of flowers, bowing again and again to answer curtain calls. Until now, I had never doubted that I could achieve anything I wanted. The future had been full of infinite possibilities. Now I was no longer sure if that was still true. One afternoon, a week after the audition, I came home from school and saw a boy blowing big, splendid soap bubbles that shimmered with colors in the sunlight. One by one, they drifted away and burst. In a few seconds, they were all gone. I thought about my beautiful dreams and wondered if they would drift away just like those lovely soap bubbles.